The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, season 20, episode number 31. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at LG.com/OLED Evo. All right, let's go. We got lots of things we're going to get into today. Cowboys are into now starting to flip the page from the debacle that was last Sunday versus the Saints. And as of tomorrow, we'll start on their preparation for the upcoming game against the Baltimore Ravens. Yesterday, Mike McCarthy had his time with the media, and there were a couple things that came out of that, as well as Jerry Jones this morning on Sean, RJ, and Bobby. Where he had a couple comments. But we'll talk about a little bit about those things. Brian in the second segment is going to have a game for us. He's got some questions. We'll go into the mind of Brian Broaddus. And then finally, in the third segment, we will take some time, much to the chagrin of Amber. We'll take some time to let you guys sound off.
What does that mean?
That means you didn't like the idea. But we're going to go anyway, and I really want to advocate for our fans here and give them an opportunity to call in. And,
so you're just lying?
And talk to us. And so you guys will be able to call us.
One thing I cannot stand are liars.
I'm just going to power right through this. I'm going to power right through this. We want you to call us, 888-855-2297.
I will continue to advocate for the fans. We will try to make Tuesday a day that you can actually reach out.
Yes.
And we'll make Derek make time for you guys, because ever since this podcast that Nikki met, what is it called again?
Wow.
Storylines.
You just want to take a shot at Nick.
No, I'm not.
Just say you want to take a shot at Nick.
Storylines. We can talk to the fans too, okay? Let's give them a voice here too.
We just can't give them T-shirts.
Derek is too cheap, so he won't allow
cheap.
us to come up with shirts to give away.
No, we only do shirts on Storyline, and we only do that once. All right, let's let's jump in. Let's talk about Mike McCarthy. Yesterday, he had his time with the media. One thing he talked about, this was a reaction to the loss. He said, we look like a young, inexperienced football team, calling on veterans to make an impact mentally and physically. Were the problems, as you went back and looked at it, were the problems that you saw related to youth and inexperience?
Yeah. I mean, when we went through, we started talking about missed blocks, guys stumbling on routes, guys not extending for the ball, left tackle, center. Mm-hmm. How about Maris Leofau at linebacker? Yeah, they got a lot of young guys playing. And that was something I felt like that when he said it, it was a very clear picture that they are relying on a lot of young guys to play. And that's no excuse. But young guys are going to make mistakes. They're not going to get the blocks all the time. They're not going to run the right routes all the time. They're going to jump around blocks. They're going to play like they're at Oklahoma or at Notre Dame or South Carolina or any of these other places.
Well, they could get away with those things, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So, yeah, I think that if that's part of the hazard of playing young guys is they will eventually go from being guys of inexperience to having experience. And you hate to have a game where but there was a lot wrong with really the whole team. It wasn't just the young guys, but it was pretty evident when you watched the tape that there were young guys in positions, or that they put in position to make plays that for their first time, it was a little bit of a daunting task.
I give a lot of credit to all these younger players and what they're doing. Again, you took a gamble in the offseason. You took a gamble during free agency and decided to go the drafting route once again and rely on that. And that's a big gamble that you take on hoping that these young players can perform to the level that you need them to perform. And just like Brian mentioned, it wasn't just the young players.
Yeah.
It was a collective thing with everybody.
They all took a number.
Exactly. But the point is, you knew that going in, and I don't like to pressure these young players and blame them and all that, because that's completely unfair. I think they're doing a good job. There is time for development, growth, and those kind of experiences, you only get it through actual game day. You can practice as much as you want during training camp, week-to-week practices, but the actual experience and growth in that aspect just comes from actual game day plays. And it's just that's what they have, and that's what they got to figure out and deal with. And it sucks to be put in that situation, but there's no other way to do it.
They eventually grow up.
Yeah, eventually. But what you don't have is time.
Yeah, and what happens when you're a draft and develop team is you're always going to go this route.
Yeah,
you're not going to, and especially if you have several of the players on your roster that are the top players in the league, you're going to have to play with a lot of younger guys, and that's the way really it is around all the league. And the coaches, they have a lot of faith in these kids. They have a lot of faith in. I mean, when they talk about Leofau, and I remember visiting with Mike Zimmer at training camp. Oh my gosh, this kid gets it. He understands it. He's talented. And you're going on and on and on, and they, and then he plays in the game, and then you're kind of like, man, he looked like he missed this read, or he missed that read, or he missed this. And I'm just saying him. I'm not.
Just in general.
Just in general, there are a lot of guys. Like I say, Brooks is a really young guy. Everybody is saying, oh, well, Brooks is better than Tolbert. They kept saying Brooks. And you're like going, okay, well, Tolbert has a little bit more experience, but yeah, let's go with Brooks. And, you miss a block on the edge. You get overpowered there by the nickel corner. And then you fall down running on an inside route where you can't fall down. That's going to be an interception 90% of the time. If you're running an in-breaking route and you fall down, somebody in the middle of the field is going to intercept that ball. But those are experience he has. He's like, okay, I've got to be a little bit more controlled on my breaks. I got to make sure that when I plant that I don't stumble. But I think a lot of guys, it was a very eye-opening game for a lot of guys. As much where Guyton's eye-opening moment was in Cleveland last week. Mm-hmm. When you watch Myles Garrett rush, you're like going, damn, this is the NFL. I'm not blocking somebody from Louisiana Monroe or any, I'm blocking real dudes here right now. No offense to Louisiana Monroe, but you know what I'm saying there.
Yeah. Let's go on to a conversation or a question that was asked about the effectiveness of the running game. Mike McCarthy says the run game is difficult. It's a commitment to the run game. It's tough to play if you don't play it all the time, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to fundamentals. Jerry followed up this morning when asked about the running game, and he was specifically asked about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
His response was, I don't necessarily see a change that would involve Cook this week. My question for you guys is, does Dallas need more commitment to the run, or do they need different personnel? Because it really is. The answer could be both, right?
I tried to help you in week one. With game in hand and just go ahead and try and work on the running game.
Yeah.
There could have been a commitment there. This is where sometimes coaches drive me nuts, where you talk about there needs to be a commitment. There could have been a commitment in the second half of the Browns game with game in hand. You knew they weren't coming back on you. If you run the ball, and you keep going 3 and out. Okay, now you have an idea.
Yeah,
we committed.
You know what you need to fix.
We now understand that. To me, the running game was not a problem in this game. You know why? Because there was no need to go to the running game. You were behind 21-3, 21-6, 28 to, it just this. You never got to stop to where now if the game would have been able to, if you'd got close and it got tight and we got to run the ball here to try and get first downs and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, I get it. But the score was so whacked and you weren't going to stop them. The only way you had a chance of coming back in this game is throwing the football. Last week was the week to work on the running game when the game was in hand. That to me was the missed opportunity. Even Zach Martin said that. You don't have to believe me, failed NFL scout. Believe the guy that's playing right guard for you. He's the one that said, we might have missed an opportunity there. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, if maybe we would have felt better about the running game. If all of a sudden you're running against Cleveland at second half and you're like, well, that's a pretty good front seven you're running against right there. Now we have this unknown feeling. We still have an unknown feeling, even when we had a chance to maybe either say, hey, this thing is going to be all right, or, boy, we're in an S-load of trouble right now, and we don't know that. We're saying, well, you got to be committed to it. Well, you could have committed it to a game in hand. You missed an opportunity there, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and that's exactly, going into week 3, that's not an ideal situation to be in. And, I would hope that we do see Dalvin Cook go into this game, but because that at least gives you a new something to work with.
There you go.
What you're putting on film right now, what you've put on film these past 2 weeks, who are you scaring? You're not scaring anybody. Like no defensive coordinator is looking at this game saying, "Oh man, we gotta make sure we stop them from running the ball." It's not happening. You haven't done it. You haven't shown or proved that you can do it. And I've had faith going into this game. I do still think that if they come up with different ways to do it and be more creative with it, that there is a possibility for these running backs to be able to actually run the football and be more effective than what they've been. But like you say, Brian, they missed that chance week 1 when they had it in hand. They could have tried different things.
Could have tried some things.
And have a better idea, whether good or bad.
Right.
Okay, this is what we got and this is what we can do. So again, hopefully this is a week where we do see, despite what Jerry Jones commented and said, I hope we do see Dalvin Cook go in there and hopefully he's in good shape. He is in good shape. He's healthy. But hopefully he can add some spark and bring something else to the run game.
We're all learning about these metrics. When you have backs, but it's not just Zeke. When you have backs that have not made anybody miss, that's a metric. Mm-hmm. That's the stat they keep. Make people miss. Dallas, both backs, neither one. I think Vaughn has 3.
Dowdle had 7 last week.
Right.
I think 7 in game 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have in the game
7.
where you don't have anybody miss, and then all of a sudden, look at 10-yard runs. You're near the bottom of the league in that. So to me, this week was you weren't going to run because there was no reason to run. You were too far behind.
Yeah.
You're playing catch up. So it's still now here we go into week 3, and there's that unknown factor. If you run the ball, you're like, okay, great. But now it's kind of like, well, how committed? He talks about being committed. How committed are you going to be, going forward? That's what bothers me about coaches. They say you have to be committed. Well, Mike, you can make that call.
Yeah.
You're the primary play caller. You look down your play card and you say, okay, today, this series, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do that. And, I don't know. It's just, I don't know why you would want to keep not knowing.
Well, also in this game, I feel like how it's going, now it's starting to add that unnecessary pressure to it, where it's like now maybe he sees himself being forced to, okay, let's try to run the ball more, even in situations where you don't necessarily want to. So I think it starts with that added pressure. It starts taking away from the logic aspect of the game and being more logical on the things and the plays that you should run.
I will point this out, Brian, talking about those missed tackles. I think for this last game, Dowdle, as I said, had 7 on 4 carries, which to me is not a bad clip. That's a little better than what the other guys are doing. Yeah. You certainly want more, as you were saying. Yeah. You want more volume. Yeah. I want to see what that looks like after you get to 15 carries or 12 carries even. Having 4 carries is just not enough. And I understand how the game played out.
Yeah.
But that did give me reason to believe that maybe you and I can be right on this one, that Dowdle can be a guy that can carry load. They just got to give him an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see Dalvin Cook. Yeah. I really don't.
I don't either. I don't know how they get him up.
That's the thing that Jerry, they're probably looking at other situations at other positions and stuff and probably feeling far more pressed than having Dalvin Cook up.
Yeah.
I don't
think a lot of
Dalvin Cook might be a break glass in case of emergency guy, and I don't know. They probably don't look at it that way right now.
Yeah. And quite frankly, as the season goes on, again, I don't know that any of these backs are the type that really put fear, as you said, Amber, in opposing defenses. So maybe the thought is hold Dalvin, and it just gives a new wrinkle later in the season if you need him, or if you don't need him, it's just a new wrinkle.
If you're losing games,
Well, maybe, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know if we can. If I don't know about the back, I think I have an idea about the backs. I don't know about the line.
Yeah.
I think this running game could be really good because maybe the backs, but the line could be awful, you know, or it could be a really good running game with the line and the backs are not any good.
Yeah.
That was my fear, that they were going to be able to create lanes and holes and gaps and stuff, but they weren't able to get somebody to and through the hole. Yeah. That was my big issue.
There's so many
and
question marks.
We don't even know.
Yeah, there's so many question marks when you think about the offensive line and you think about the backs that it's like everything has to go right. And there's so many question marks, so many things that are not what you thought they were, or you just didn't know because you didn't have the experience of knowing. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break. We'll come back. We'll get into the mind of Brian Broaddus. He's got some great questions for us. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said the LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios. At the start of the segment, brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, let's go into the mind of Brian Broaddus. What you got for us?
I got a few questions for you guys, and I know you guys will give me some good answers. So here we go. AG, I'll start with you. Did Tolbert's overall play make you feel better about the receivers behind Lamb?
Better than last year, yes. If we're comparing it, we're using something to compare it with, I think Tolbert has taken a step up in the way that he plays. Mm-hmm. Brandon Cooks, he's still Brandon Cooks. I mean, he's still very talented and skilled and fast and everything. And Tolbert, he's grown. And I would say, like, if you look at what happened last year, the way he played, and also what they had in Michael Gallup last year, which was not much. Mm-hmm. He never recovered from that injury and what he was dealing with. But this year, and even some of the plays that we saw this past weekend, I thought he's playing with more confidence, mm-hmm. He's more assertive mm-hmm. in the decisions that he's making. He still needs to be better, but I think I feel a lot more comfortable with the receivers right now behind CeeDee Lamb.
Derek, did Tolbert do his overall play in that game make you feel better about the receivers behind Lamb?
It's a two-part question for me. I mean, two-point answer for me. I think I feel better about the third wide receiver position than what I felt last year about Michael Gallup. I still feel like the wide receiver position isn't getting what it needs from Brandon Cooks. Because I look at that and I'm like, giving him 2 opportunities in a game where you're down by as much as you were, that to me, you're not utilizing him.
Right.
He needs
That's
more
what it is.
opportunity.
I was gonna say. I mean, are you putting it on him or
No.
the coaching?
This is not. This is not on him. He
Which
had
is
2.
what happened
he had
last
2
year
targets.
too.
Right. He had 2 targets and 2 catches for 19 yards. So it ain't on him. And what I will say is, what I don't know, and I'll have to defer on this one because I still haven't had a chance to get to my film yet.
Come on,
Driving me
Derek.
crazy. No, the system isn't working.
I know.
But I haven't been able to see, was he not getting open?
Yeah.
Were there bad routes? I know for at least one play I saw in real time, he was wide open.
Yeah.
Now, the play may not have been designed for him, so I get all that. But my point is, I think there are opportunities that I think are being left on the field when it comes to Brandon Cooks. And to me, that's where I want to see more for the receiver position. I'm glad I think the third wide receiver position, I think you've upgraded from what you were getting out of Michael Gallup at the end of his career. And so I do think that improves, but they got to get more. They got to figure out how to get Cooks more involved in the game.
Cooks was open in some of those, and Dak just doesn't always get him the ball. That's something it's mind blowing sometimes.
His speed is a difference maker.
It is a difference maker. It really, really is. And the only issue that I had with Tolbert in that game, I wish the ball he would just extended for that ball when right before the half when Dak threw it to him along the sideline.
Yeah.
By waiting on the ball, he let Tyrann Mathieu have a run at him.
Yep.
And if he extends and secures it, then gets down or gets out of bounds, maybe he doesn't take that hit. Then, I mean, that's a big play right there. Now you've got yourself into position where you can throw it at the end zone. A couple plays later, what happens? They throw the interception.
Yeah.
And so you kind of needed to make that play. Just extend your hands, reach for the ball, don't wait for it to get to you, and then try and do something with it. But that was really the only one where I felt like that he kind of let you down on a play. Other than that,
some of those catches that he had, to me, I guess maybe because my expectations are lower based on what I saw last year, but I was like, "Ooh, okay, there you go."
Well, it was very Gallup-like along the sidelines with that vertical pass like that. But for sure,
he gave you some plays that were harder catches to make. So I was happy with what he did in this game.
Derek, I'm coming back to you on this one. Do you feel as if you can now rely on Luke Schoonmaker from what you saw?
Well, let me say this. I think for what he was asked to do this game, I thought it was pretty good. I think he gave the quarterback an outlet in situations where you need to be able to get the ball to the tight end. So from that standpoint, I think he was fine. I still don't think he has that ability that we've grown accustomed to. With being
run
able
after catch.
Yeah, the run after catch. The stuff that you can get where you get the ball in his hands and all of a sudden he turns upfield. He's supposed to be tackled, but he's not tackled.
Right.
He's still running. I think that's the part that I think we're missing a little bit without Ferguson. And I would want to see that, again, if you talk about my expectations of what I would have thought for a second-round tight end would be, I would get a little bit more of that. But all things being considered, it's a step in the right direction. He's growing in the right direction, and you talk about it all the time. I mean, we have buried tight ends around here over the years, and then it just takes a little bit of time, and then eventually they get it. So I'm very happy with the progress of what I saw in this game versus what I'd been seeing before.
Ambar, do you feel that if you can now rely on Luke Schoonmaker a little more?
For a game? Sure. Don't extend it past that. I will say I do give him credit because he has developed, and despite all the little injuries here and there that he's dealt with since the moment he got here, he's maintained his will to participate, to learn, to do what he can in part of the recovery and not miss out whatever is happening on the field. But at the same time, I'm totally with Derek and what you said. You still don't have that level of athleticism that you get with a guy like Jake Ferguson. So you are missing that spark and that dynamic in the offense. But I think he's a guy like you can rely on emergency type of same scenario of like Cooper Rush.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't. I mean, Cooper Rush, he
I
did
get
a
it.
lot more.
I think that's actually a good comparison.
Kind of like that. Like you're good for like a couple of games, but don't make it a habit. You know, let's get our starter back and healthy and back in there, because it just elevates and it takes the offense to another level.
Yeah, I like how you put that, because essentially what you're saying is he's not going to hurt you. Like, he'll be fine. He can play the role. He can give you a little something. He's not going to hurt you. He may not be the difference in a win versus a loss, but he certainly isn't going to hurt you, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think in this game I always like to say that he was a plus player.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're a negative player, you're going to get beat with a negative player.
Yep.
I feel like in this game he was a plus player. That he wasn't doing anything that was getting you killed in this game. He wasn't making mistakes.
He's handling his job.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this question?
Sure.
And I assume you've gotten access to the film at this point.
I do. I don't know how I have access.
Right.
to
I'm
it.
like, how am I not? But anyway, what did you see from him from the standpoint of blocking?
Yeah, there was a couple of times where they ran the reverse with it down in the red zone where it was the flip play that they made with Zeke. They tried to run kind of the option. And it was an example of him releasing, because they blocked the in man. They let the in man on the line of scrimmage go, and then he was up on the second level. He could do a pretty good job when he has to play in space that way. That's something that if he comes off the ball, he can engage and hand fight that way. He's going to have to work on the aspect of getting his nose in there, and he will try. He just doesn't have that snap right now, where you watch the way the Saints were blocking your edges with their big guys. You could see them getting, they hook their guy, they get movement, they turn them, and he's trying his best. His movements come from his ability to move so the guy's moving with, and then he's moving with the guy. That's where he's at his best. But to just come off the ball and just flat back somebody and try and get him out of there right now, that's just not where he's at in his game.
Got it.
Okay, I'll go with you on this one, Derek. Or who I go first last time? It was Derek, I think. I'll go with you, Ambar, on this one. I'm trying to kind of back and forth it here, so you don't talk too much. Ambar, should we be concerned about Zach Martin?
This thought had not crossed my mind.
That's why I'm here, Ambar.
Until
we have dived into the mind of Brian Broaddus.
Ooh, it's scary in there. I don't want to be there. Take me out.
Scary in there.
Take me back out. It's a great question, because this is a year.
I've learned something, by the way. Whenever you say that's a great question, you're fishing for an answer.
Because it's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a hard question.
Every time you hear somebody, boy, that's a great question,
right.
You're fishing for an answer.
No doubt.
Well, I think we all knew going into this season that this might be Zach Martin's last year with the team. I think that's a topic of conversation that was lightly talked about earlier, during training camp and that time. So it is something to definitely consider. You see some of the plays. I even noticed a few times, and again, Derek and I have not been able to watch freaking film because the system is not working.
It's a shame. It works fine for me.
I don't know how.
So crazy.
But
it knows not to mess with me.
In the game, I did see live a few plays where it was unlike Zach Martin. There were certain plays
when
that
Breesy knocked the ball at his Dak's hands, and then there was a crazy fumble that Tolbert recovered. That I didn't expect Zach Martin to kind of get pushed in a way where that guy could be close enough to knock that ball loose.
It raises an eyebrow. You're like, well, okay, I wouldn't expect that from him.
Yeah.
He's played at such a high level
all
throughout his career that anything that starts being lower than that, you're like, all right, hold on. Don't get me wrong. He's still a guy that I want all year long. And he's still a guy that's going to give you his best. But maybe, and I don't want to say this because it's too soon for me to even speak those words out of my mouth, because I highly respect him and admire him. But it is something to keep an eye on in the next few weeks, because it might be something that starts trending that way, and not because nothing against him, but age hits at a certain time.
Father time is
You've
never
given
lost,
so much to the game that it's only natural that you start missing some of those plays. But let's keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think part of it is you look at him and you're like, when you have a player that plays at such a high level for all of their career, it's like it happened with Tyron Smith, right?
Yeah.
He plays at such a high level that when he gets a little older and he's not that player anymore, and now he's doing there are normal things that happen to the normal, and even to the above
Instead
average
of an
player.
all-pro guard, he looks like a Pro Bowl guard.
Exactly. And so you're like, but for us, we're like, well, wait, how did you beat Zach? Like, so it is very jarring to see it, and I think that's part of what we're seeing right now. I don't think he's Zach Martin from early in his career when he was absolutely the best offensive guard in the National Football League. I don't think he's that necessarily anymore, but I will still take him where he is right now above the alternatives. And I think you got some good guards on this team.
Yeah.
I still think I would take him above those guys because I still think he's playing at a high level. It's just not the highest level necessarily.
It's more of us having to adjust our own personal expectations of him and what we've been used to watching from him.
That's the thing you got to remember about offensive linemen. You could have 70 plays where you do everything right,
and it's the one
and
or
it
two.
Can be one or two
you
plays,
gotta grade the 70
and then all
plays.
of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening with this player? But it's like you look at the percentage. It's a pretty good game. It just depends on what happened on those one or two plays. If your quarterback got hurt, that's a horrible game, right?
Yeah, 67 pluses and 3 minuses, and the 1 minus got you beat.
Right,
that day.
exactly. Yeah.
We have time for one more question?
Yeah, one more.
Okay, I'll ask you this question, Derek. Will Mike Zimmer figure out how to get Overshown on the field more in base packages?
Hell yeah, it's going to happen. And the reason why it's going to happen is, number one, because I think they all believe that DeMarvion Overshown is a player.
Yeah.
And you find ways to get players on the field. Sometimes you get into games, and Brian, you know this as much as anybody. You get into games and you kind of follow your game plan. Well, if we're in base, you're not on the field.
Right.
And then a team does something to where they keep you in base, and you get
like
to the end of the game.
89% of the
right,
time.
You get to the end of the game, and you look at the stats sheet, and you're like, he only played 18. Okay. We ain't doing that no more.
Right.
Now, let's mix him into the base. I think that'll be the way they look at it. I think my expectation, at least, will be that going forward, he'll be a part of some base packages.
Yeah.
They will figure out ways to get him on the field rather than having him on the sideline just because here was kind of our game plan going into this one. If another team does this to us, we're going to figure out a way to get him on the field. That's how I look at it.
I like that. Ambar.
I agree. And it's something like, how can you not, after you come back into the building and watch film, and you're like, okay. And then the times that he has been on the field, again, this past game wasn't a great game. We all saw that. Yeah. We all witnessed what we saw. But you can't take away that he has been pretty impressive so far, given that he was out a whole year, coming back in, and he's been explosive. He moves around so well. He's playing so much better than what I thought he would be. I thought it would take him a few more weeks to kind of get going, but he's been so good overall. Again, take into kind of consideration what happened last week, and everybody played bad, but he's still very athletic. And again, I think that after you look at the game, watch film, and see the overall results, there's no way that you cannot be like, okay, let's figure out how to keep him more.
Man, they love Luafau. They love him.
They do.
Love him, and it might be because of his spot. So I will be interested to see. I think you guys are going down the right path. I'll be interested if they adjust it though that quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna save this question for tomorrow when we talk about the Cowboys defense and how they match up against Baltimore. But should there be a consideration at some point to where you get Overshown more on the field in favor of maybe having Clark on the sideline?
Oh no,
I think that's a question that we should talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I do think that there's some thought there when you start thinking about who are the guys that should be on the field and how much. I think there's some conversation should be
absolutely that like you said, if they're going to they probably we'll see, because the Ravens are a team that will get into the 21 and 22 personnel stuff. And if that's the case, how do they respond this way? They play their base defense that way. But I think it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be this week or how soon. Yeah.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, appreciate that. That was good good segment, good questions there. Good answers, Amber. Good job.
You too, Derek Eagleton.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice to hear compliments sometimes coming from you. All
We'll
right,
come back and listen to you guys, the fans. We'll make sure that Derek sticks to his word on this upcoming segment. So send in your questions.
All right. You could also call us.
Or
888-855-2297 is the number again. 888-855-2297.
Did you ask Nick if we can do this?
I don't care what Nick got to say. Don't run me. All right, we're going to go to our final break. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Today we're going to get some calls from you guys. Call us 888-855-2297. We already have a couple calls on the line. Let's get to Keith in East Texas. Keith, what up?
Guys, Brian, some things for y'all to think about. You're talking about the younger players.
Yeah.
We are looking at J.K. Dobbins leading the league for $1.1 million. Zeke is down in the 20s for $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Tolbert had to come back for that ball and make an incredible catch. That ball was underthrown, and he was starting to separate. The ball was thrown at Zeke's feet for a possible touchdown. Possible touchdown to CD, which if he had been led on the inside, the ball was overthrown into the outside. We know that Jerry had no choice but to give Dak the money. My question to you guys, had he given them the money that they were going to get anyway and did get early, restructured, you could have gotten some players if you were really all in. So pounding on these young guys, nobody ever mentions Terrence Steele had a horrible year last year, and he had a sack the other day. But we're talking about the young guys. I get frustrated with his picking on the young guys. He likes the young guys because they're cheaper. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't think we're picking on the young guys at all. I think that that Mike McCarthy brought it up in his press conference yesterday, and we're just commenting on the fact that they are playing with a lot of young guys. And when you play with young guys, you're potentially going to have mistakes. I don't think we were going after any of these kids.
And not only that, let's also mention yesterday when we talked about it on the show, there were plenty of veteran guys, and Brian, you mentioned earlier, veteran guys that had problems yesterday.
Absolutely.
So this was not a just a young guy problem. Quite frankly, the young guys are the part you feel better about because you feel like they're going to get better.
That's what Jerry was talking about
the veteran
today.
guys are the ones I'm a little more worried about. Like when you got those defensive tackles, Phillips and Linval Joseph, and the play games that they played, I'm a little more concerned about them than I am a young guy. But I do want to also point out something real quick. On that play you mentioned, that the caller mentioned about he should have led Lamb.
Yeah.
It's since that time, there's been some conversations that have made it pretty apparent that it was the wrong route. Like he should have stayed more upfield, and Dak was throwing to the spot he should have been throwing to. So I'd be careful throwing that one on the Dak ledger. Yes, Dak missed Zeke on that throw, and Dak wasn't perfect yesterday.
No.
But on that particular pass, I would be careful giving that to Dak.
Yep.
All right, let's get a call from Carmine in New Jersey.
On that play you mentioned.
Carmine, you're there.
Yes.
What's up?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You're on the air, sir.
I'm sorry. I agree with everything you guys say. Top notch. The only thing is, I know we're worried about running backs and wide receivers. I just can't see us doing anything but stopping the run unless we get a better DT. What do you think?
Yeah.
Thanks for the call.
He feels like that, and this is the general manager's thoughts this morning, was that they feel like that they have the personnel to be able to play. Now, and I've said this yesterday, I've said on a couple different platforms now, if you don't protect these linebackers, you're not going to be a very good run defense, because I don't think you're going to be able to add anything. And if I steered you wrong about Jordan Phillips, I apologize to you guys for that. But the things that, with Joseph and Phillips and guys like that, and Mozzie and Osa, they've got to do a better job, because your key to stopping the run is going to be your linebackers' ability to free up and go get the ball. But if they're dealing with blockers all day, and there's a certain amount of blockers they're going to have to deal with in games. But if you just let linemen have free run at your linebackers, it doesn't matter. You could have Aaron Donald playing defensive tackle. It ain't going to matter. Because your linebackers are going to be the key to this defense. And when you're going to play good run defense, it's going to be Kendricks playing downhill. It's going to be Leofau playing downhill. It's going to be Overshown playing downhill. It's going to be Micah when he's off-ball linebacker playing downhill. That's where this thing is going to have to get better, because you're not going to be able to go out and add a defensive tackle. And, to their credit, yes, you have to give them, they forever were never going to draft a defensive tackle in the first round. It just so happens that they have one right now that's really, really struggling. That's, they tried. It looks like at this point in time that they might not have got the right guy. Let's see what happens. But, they made an effort to do it. And you'll say, well, damn, Broadus, they went out and got a bunch of cheap dudes at the end in August, and all of a sudden. Well, I hate to say this, but maybe it could have even been worse than what we saw the other day if you were playing with some of the guys that you were going to plan on playing with. That could have maybe been a lot worse. So if you don't keep these linebackers free, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to play any run defense.
And quite frankly, I think that's across the league. I think that's just the nature of defense. If your linebackers are fighting offensive linemen all day, that's going to be a problem for any team. Yep. You've got to have guys in the front that can eat up blocks. That's really, especially for the Cowboys, when you think about the strength of their linebackers is their speed and their ability to kind of get places.
Right.
If they're fighting offensive linemen all day, it will not be good.
It will not matter.
Yep. Let's get one more phone call from Blind Man in North Carolina. Blind Man, what's up?
Hey, it's Greg, first-time caller. I've listened to Brian on his different platforms.
Thank you.
I really love his shows.
Appreciate that.
And I'm going to say, damn, Brian, we've got a whole bunch of old guys in August.
Yeah, how about that? We did.
I just want to bring up one point. When you have everybody that works for you on a deal that's going to end that year, how do you expect them to go out with the best foot to plan, to coordinate, to coach? I mean, when you're scared of losing your job from week to week, you can't expect the best. And that's all I got. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, but you go into this business not thinking that you have any type of security. Think about the coordinators at the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Both those guys probably had 3-year deals. Ownership said
felt like they had security.
Yeah, Jeff Lurie, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna give you the opportunity to come in and coach. Brian Johnson, those guys, boom, what happened? First year, both those guys gone. This league, there's no guarantees, there's no promises. You coach really year to year. You really do, especially with the way that some of these front offices. Now, the one thing here is, this group is pretty locked in when it comes to the front office, but they're locked in with the Giants. They're locked in with Pittsburgh. They're locked in with Cincinnati. There are a lot of teams that have the structure, very similar structure to what you have here. So if you're a coach, a scout, you do not expect to have multiple years to get things done. You just don't. You're always working with the darkness over you that this could be your last day.
And I think also when you just think about the psychology of humans, there are kind of two phrases that we've heard before when it comes to pressure. Pressure busts pipes and pressure makes diamonds, right? And it depends on what kind of person you are. Some people respond to pressure in a positive way. Mm-hmm. Some people respond to pressure in a negative way. It just depends on what kind of person you are. I don't know. I haven't had that experience with this particular group to know how they're going to respond to it. But some people really excel from that. And I know Jerry's talked about it in the past. Like sometimes he wants to create that kind of pressure to see how people respond. And whether that's the right approach or not, who knows for this group. What I'm saying is there is a possibility that Mike McCarthy is the type that you give him that added pressure, he's going to step up to the occasion.
Also,
I just don't know that.
I think it brings a different fire in you because you either want to prove them wrong, and also, even if it wasn't here, you're still having to show up for something for those that might be able to hire you. So it's just like with players coming out. Right. You got to present something good regardless, whether it is to stay here or for somebody else to come in and hire you. So I think it's completely different. I think you perform at a different level rather than having that job security that you're like, people would be like, oh, well, they're not going to lose their job. They're still going to be here regardless.
There's some satisfaction knowing that you did a job well done, despite feeling like the people who are your bosses didn't feel like that you were going to be able to do it. There's some satisfaction to that.
Yeah. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to start diving into Cowboys versus Ravens. Brian will have the breakdown of the Ravens offense versus the Dallas defense. That will be a very interesting matchup. Till then, for Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagles, and this has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?